Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Brandon and welcome back to my channel where we talk about cameras and all things tech. And today for this video, I'm going to show you guys how to do the right settings, or not the right settings, but how to change your settings for video for YouTube. Alright, so quickly before we move on, if I happen to get any viewers for this video, I want you guys to answer a question. What do you think about that little short bumper intro? Because I've been on the fence about keeping it, redoing the whole thing, or just get rid of it completely. If you happen to have an opinion, let me know in the comments, because I've been on the fence and really struggling on what I should do with that intro. So I would love your guys' feedback. So camera settings for YouTube. Some of the things I'm gonna go over is the frame rate, the quality of the video, 4K 1080p. What I'm using is I'm using the Sony a6400 and the 6100. So if you happen to have any of the Sony APS-C line of cameras, then you could follow these settings to the T. These settings they're pretty universal. These guidelines or whatever that you need for YouTube. Some of the things I'm not going to talk about, I'm not going to go over audio at all, because I'm going to make a whole nother video about that, as well as lighting. Two whole new videos. Alright, so when it comes to quality of the videos, and I'm speaking about 4K and 1080p, there's kind of this whole debate on social media platforms on what you should be shooting. For my videos, I shoot 4K everything. Even if I shoot slow motion, I upscale it to 4K in Premiere Pro. And the reason why I do that is because I'm able to do that. My cameras shoot 4K, so I'm going to use maximum resolution for my videos. But if you only have 1080p, that's more than enough. That's perfect. Every social media platform only lets you upload 1080p. Other than YouTube, you can upload 4K. Let's grab my Sony camera. This is the a6100, which all the settings on this camera will be the same for a 6400. If you're a Canon shooter, somewhere on that camera, you just go straight to movie mode and you can find the rest of these settings, because each brand is different. But for the Sony cameras, there's a little dial on the top of the camera. And let me see if I can show you guys what I'm talking about. Look at the focus. Okay, let's get a little bit closer. There we go. So you have this dial right here, which has all your different settings, right? Let's see if we can get the focus. There you go. Now this setting right here looks like a piece of film. That's your movie mode. So when you're shooting videos, that's what you need to be on, not these other settings. So you turn the dial to that, and then all these other settings I'm going to show you guys will be on the back of the camera and the menus and the menu tabs and the menu buttons. So let's change perspective and let me show you the rest of the settings. Alright, so I'm trying to get the lighting just right. Hopefully you guys can see this, and I believe you can. Just this bottom row right here is all you really need to see. So if this light right here is kind of bothering you, don't worry too much about that, because this bottom row right here is what we're looking at. So just want to kind of give you guys, again, Sony cameras. This is where the settings that you want to follow, and this is where you learn how to change the settings. So right here on the bottom left, when you're looking at the camera, is your shutter speed, 1/150th of a second. Then you have your aperture setting right here, which is, mine's at 3.5 currently. Then you have your ISO right here, where it says ISO 400. The other settings on here you really don't need to worry about right now. Maybe I'll make future videos on that, but right now you don't have to worry about it. But this is your shutter, this is your aperture, and this is your ISO. Now when you want to change your settings in your camera, you hit this FN number right here. It says FN. You hit that, and then at the bottom here, let me change the lighting real quick. Let me change the lighting. No, that won't work. Hold on, guys. Let me change this lighting up. All right, that's a little bit better. Okay, when you hit the FN number, you have these different settings right here at the bottom, and you see the little orange block that's highlighting everything. Oh, okay. Well, why? That's what you want. You want to go over down here to the bottom right, where it has a little A. If you click on that, this is where you can change the settings of the actual movie recording. And what I mean is, if you go up to the top, it says Program Auto. That's where I was telling you guys that if you set the auto, it's going to be 24 frames per second, most likely. And it'll just change all the settings to match the environment that you're in. It'll just try to figure out the best settings to get the best quality video. But I don't really suggest going in auto. Maybe you were shooting auto and then you decided that you wanted to learn a little bit more. But again, I don't really shoot auto. I usually shoot my videos in aperture priority, which means you set the aperture and the camera will set everything else to match that aperture. So we're going to start with that one. That's what I shoot in. So once I set the camera to aperture priority, I come over here to my aperture. Depending on the lens that I'm using, which typically I'm shooting on my 16mm 1.4, and the 1.4 is the aperture. I made a video about that. If you guys are interested, it'll be up here or up here, somewhere up the top here that you can click on. But if you want to change the aperture, you guys can't really see it, but there's going to be a dial, not this dial, but there'll be a dial right here, and that's how you change your aperture. If you can see it right there, 3.5, 4.0, 4.5, 5.0, so forth and so on. It can go all the way up to 22, I believe. Yep. So I just scroll that wheel until it gets to the lowest possible aperture, because that's what I like to shoot at, which will be 1.4. So that's how you change that, the aperture. The next thing that you want to change is your ISO. And if you look on this little dial right here, on this side of the camera, there's a little scroll wheel. On the right, it says ISO. If you just push that ISO, then you have all these different settings that you can do. You can do auto ISO, which I usually shoot on auto ISO, or you can pick your own ISO, depending on your situation, you know, what kind of lighting you have and things like that. So that's where you make that change. Again, I shoot in auto ISO. Let's go back to FN, or FN tab, and let's go over to full manual. Now, in addition to aperture priority, you also have shutter priority, which this might not be a bad situation. You can change your shutter to match your frame rate, and then let the camera do all the other settings. Or you can do manual. Now, I don't shoot manual too often in video, just because I usually have enough light so I don't have to worry too much about the shutter changing. But if you want to shoot manual, now you have full control over the shutter. Now here's the rule of thumb. If you're shooting, let's take your frame rate for example. If you're shooting 24 frames per second, then your shutter needs to double that frame rate. So what's 24 times 2 is 48. Now, some cameras will shoot 48, but most cameras only shoot 50, which I just set it to 1/150th of a second. And the same rule applies to higher frame rates. If you're shooting 60, then if you're shooting 30 frames per second, then your shutter needs to be 60. If you're shooting 60 frames per second, then your shutter needs to be 120, so forth and so on. You just double your frame rate so your shutter matches that. Alright, so that's it for this video, and I hope you guys got some value out of this video. And if you did, you know, give it a thumbs up, and if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. But definitely hit that thumbs up, because it helps the algorithm and helps the channel grow. So anyways, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments, or you can hit me up on Instagram, because my handle will be in the description below. But I appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you in the next video.